So hello guys, and welcome to another edition of TIT JavaScript class with Guru B. So today we're going to do something about a drop down option or a drop down menu. So once the user click or choose from the list whatever color name the user choose, that color should reflect on the actual text that we're going to have. So quickly let us just create a file and let's see where we can save it. I'm going to save it in here, maybe save it in TIT class. No, buddy, relax, chill. I'm doing different thing here. So this guy will be called TIT JavaScript. JavaScript, no, just something easy. There's the drop down the HTML. Okay, so we have the file name drop down the HTML saved in TIT class folder, where we have all of our previous classes and stuff. So as always, we're going to declare our document as an HTML5 document. So doc type should be HTML, and then telling our browser that this code was written in HTML. So our language of this guy is going to be in English, and we're going to have our header here, our header section, and in the header section we can also add our script, our JavaScript section. So in this JavaScript section we are going to load or create an event listener. So document the event listener. Let's add an event listener. Document.add event listener, and then we want to do something here. Create a function, but in this function is going to have two arguments. The first one is to load all of the content of this document using our document object model, that is the DOM. So DOM content loaded is going to load the entire code once we run this program, or once we compile it, or whatever name we want to use it. And then it's going to have another argument here to create a function, but we can do that by just using an arrow notation. Okay, so in JavaScript you can create a function like this as well. You can also say function and then open and close the parentheses. So with that we can now say create this guy. So what will happen is this section of this code is going to change the heading once we select a different color from the drop down. So let's put a comment here to say change the color of the header or heading. You can just call it heading when the drop down is clicked, or maybe let's just say when the drop down changes. So now we going to query or check in this document for what we actually want to do. So we're going to check in this document for an ID called color change, which we're going to create later on. So we can say the document accuracy letter, that is to say search throughout the entire document, and then we want you to find this thing with the name of colors change. Okay, so there's an ID which we're going to create later on called color change, and then find that. And we have an option in JavaScript. We have on click, on submit, on stroke, but we want to use on change. So once you change that, once you find this ID and then you change it, we should do something. We should set that to a function. We should set that equal to a function, and what this function is going to do, this function is not going to search throughout this entire document. So document accuracy letter, that is to check throughout this document for another ID called hello. Okay, for another ID called hello, and if we find that ID, what do we want to do? We want to change the style of that ID, and in the starting session, what else we want to change? We want to change specifically the color of that ID, and we're going to set that color to what? To this value. So this value is another expression in JavaScript that we can use to specify on a specific attribute or a specific line of our code. So that is it for the JavaScript aspect, and it's already open and closed. So now we're going to have maybe our header. We can just put our header, our title of our page, and say TIT dropdown. Okay, just TIT dropdown as the header of our page. And in our body section, as well, we're going to create all of those IDs and stuff. So we're going to have an h1 here. This h1 is for heading 1, and what this heading 1 is going to show. This h1, we want to have it with an ID so that we can be able to reference it later, like we reference it up in the JavaScript code. So it's going to have an ID called, let's call it color change, because we already use the same color change here. We can change it to whatever name we want. We can call it color change, but then we can change it to whatever name we want to make it easier. But since we use color change here as an ID, they have to be the same ID here. So that's it for the h1. But then we have to put something here that the user can see, to say TIT color change. Okay, so that can be for our h1. It's going to be a bold text, a bigger text with a bigger heading and bold and everything. And then how does the user, or how will the user change these things? So we use something called select. So select, and then we have to get an option. But this select, we also need to have an ID of it. Put an ID on this select to do something. So what is going to be on this ID? This ID is not going to be called, okay, we can swap this one. We can put this one, say color change. Let's make it a div, and then we can make this one to be hello. Okay, so let's make our h1 to be hello, because we're going to change according to this. We want to change the color, change the style, and change the color of this hello ID. So basically, this is what we want to change. So it's better we use this one for this one. And then for our select option, we can now have this guy. And in the first option we're going to have, this option can be, let's put a value here for it, which you can later reference, and say this value is going to be black. Okay, we can use black, and then we just put something that the user can see. Okay, so quickly let us just copy this line. How many colors do we want? We want black, we want black and the red. We want black, red. We also want maybe blue, and then maybe we can also go with green. So we also have to change it here as well to say red. We have to change it as well to say blue, because these ones will just be in the back end. The one with the small case is going to be in the back end. This one that you see in white color here is what the user is going to see from the drop down. So once the drop down shows, these are the colors the user is going to see. And then we can now say, okay, let's close our HTML since we already opened it here. Let's close our HTML. So let's run this code and see what will happen. Let's try to find where we save it. I think we save it in a folder here called TIT class. So let me quickly go back here and look for TIT class. we save it as can I remember what we save it as? Which name? Which name did we use? Drop down right here. I'm sure drop down. So let's try to open in our Chrome browser. Try to open our Chrome browser and see what's the icon of it. So we have TIT color changer. So if we click here and choose red, now it changed to red. So let's do something on it. Come back here to this code because it's in the corner. Maybe we want to bring everything in the middle of the page and then do some little bit of CSS and stuff on it. So to do our CSS and stuff on it, we can create our style section. Say, what do we want? We want our body of this entire code. We want our body to be, the text should be aligned in the center. Alright. And then maybe we can also increase the font size of this guy. We see our font size should be maybe around 72 pixels. And we also want to do something here, but then we can have, okay, let's see what happened first and what we did. Let's refresh it. So now you come here in the center, but this button you see here, it's very tiny, though it can still work as we expect. Red, it will change to red. Blue is going to change to blue like that. Green is going to change to green. Maybe we can also increase this button or this option stuff. So we say look for option. Okay, look for option, and then we want to increase the size. So the font size of option should be maybe the same 72 pixel. So let's go back here and refresh this page. And so it did it for the inner part. We don't want it for the inner part. We want it for our select. Let's take the select option. The select instead of option. Let's take select. So it's going to do it for select, which is going to take effect on all of these guys. So for our select, we come back here and refresh. Now it's much bigger, so we can choose whatever color we want in all of these things. So just to get the logic of what happening, and we can also do something with our body here and say the entire body we want a background color. Maybe we want the background color of the entire thing to be we got blue, we got green, we got red. Maybe we want it to be sky blue. Maybe let's try sky blue. I hope it will not affect the other colors. We refresh this guy. So we have this page now that is if we choose blue, that means we're going to take blue. If we choose red, it's going to take red like that. Green is going to take green. So I hope you get the logic, and it is what it is. It's TIT all day and every day. This might be useful in certain part of your website. It might be useful in certain part of your code where you want to change certain things and do certain stuff. So I hope you can use this wisely, whatever the need might be. Or you can also have fun. So keep safe. It's TIT Guru B all day and every day.